Coach Johnson here with Spotlight High. I'm on location at Todd State. I'm in the audio booth, and I'm present with William Bill Nettles. Bill, as you like to be called.
Yes.
You've been here over 38 years announcing games.
38 coming up.
38 coming up.
Mm-hmm.
My main question is for you is, out of all the games that you have done, what number are you coming up on, and why is it so special?
Well, it is special in the sense of the word because there's a couple of people that have looked at it and they say, well, you know, we realize what you're saying, but you know, we just find the number too staggering. The game number, I'll do game number 1,000 this year, and I'm not gonna. I know right now which game that is. There's no way of telling for sure if that'll hold true. Mother Nature can interrupt us. She can cancel a game, postpone a game, so it would change the venue off of it. But I'm coming up on 1,000 games this year. I'll hit that mark. The Daily Press did a little thing on me a few years ago, and I confided into them at that time that I was coming up on this, and I made a comment to him at the time that I was there, and this is Dave Johnson. That was game number 700 in the article he wrote, and I told him that I would be 71 or 72 when I got to that 1,000th game, and I am 72 now. I'm right on it. I have had a break in sorts for it because I have had a couple of people that have changed when that was going to happen. Bobby Pennebaker, who's the athletic director for Lake Taylor High School and was the football director for the Eastern Region before we shuffled things around. I was his announcer of choice at a lot of the higher games that we played. For instance, some of the 4 championship games we played in 1997 and 98 were played over there. I was requested to do those. I did them. I had another game that was requested by Martin Oliver and Bobby. They both got together, and that was a game that took place in 2007 over at Oscar Smith High School between Oscar Smith and Westfield. I've got some stuff to talk about that game. I went over there and did that because they were looking for a neutral announcer, and those two came together and said, okay, when my name was mentioned, Martin Oliver knew who I was because he was the basketball coach at Great Bridge, and I had announced one of his games, and he was probably one of the most charismatic coaches I've ever. I'm announcing this game, and all I'm doing is talking with him just like I'm talking with you the whole course of the game. It was the strangest thing that I've ever done, but it was just a completely different tempo game. So when he found out I was available, him and Bobby said, well, let's get him, and I got to that game. The score wasn't very high in that game, 24-21. The most important thing about it was, of all of the games I've done, I don't think that there was any game played in the state of Virginia that had as much of an impact on records as that game did. That game set 7 different records in the VHSL record book for team stats and individual stats, and tied an 8th one. It was an awesome game.
What's your first game and what location?
First of all, I'll tell you how I got started. I went back to this. I got started when my son played youth football in 1976. He played on a team that was undefeated. The team went to Chase City, youth football. I'm sitting there in this field, and somebody said, well, we got a PA system. We need to get an announcer. And keep in mind, I'd never announced anything to anybody. Had no idea I could even do anything. And the coach for the game, they were the people from Chase City were looking at the coach for the team from Newport News who came in. There was some discussion, and Coach Long pointed to me and said, well, he talks, get him to do it. I remember going up in the press box. I remember getting 2 rosters. On the way up the press box, I'm running around in my mind how I'm going to do this. So I come back down to get 2 rosters, and I go back up there again. And I sit down, and I just started in, and basically I was emulating what I'd seen, most of what I'd seen. I knew enough not to do what we consider play-by-play, because that you're talking while the game's going on, and that's sanctity involved in that. So we don't do that. So I didn't do that from the beginning. I can remember coming down at halftime, and I went to the concession stand, And the lady comes up to me, she says, "Are you the announcer?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "How long have you been announcing football?" I looked at my watch, I said, 30 minutes. She says, No. How long have you been announcing football?" 30 minutes. So I went back upstairs and finished out the game, and when I came home, I think 2 days later, I got a phone call from one of the youth football areas. Said, "We're having a postseason game. Would you announce it?" So I did that for a couple of years, and then this job popped open. The guy that had this job left quickly, about 2 weeks before the season started. Wayne Begore contacted Jim Osborne and asked Jim if he knew somebody that could announce football. Jim says, "Well, I've had Bill Nettles that's been announcing softball for me for several years, and he does the youth bowl up here." He said he can do it. So Wayne just said for Jim to call me to see if I was available. So Osborne called me, and he said, "I'll call you back." About 10 minutes later, Jim Osborne called me and said, "You got the job." That's how quick that job came about.
That is great.
I came up here in 1980. I'm sitting up here, and I'm about to do the first game, and it dawns on me what I'm doing. And then I'm thinking over in my mind, I said, "You know something? Nobody's ever going to believe that I'm doing this." I said, so as a result of that, I started trying to keep some sort of records or some odd and end things to remind me about the things that were going on, how I felt about certain things. And you're going to see the evolution of it as I've gone along. I think a great deal of Mike. That opinion is not shared by everybody, but
Mike Smith.
Yes, but I do.
Yes.
And the reason for that is 1980, Mike gave me my first postseason game, which was Hampton and Kempsfield.
Yes.
All right. Now, when I did that game, I figured, wow, man, this is it. I've got a postseason game, went the whole regular season. This is the deal. But then 1981 came along, excuse the English, and things got even better. In 1981, Michael finished the year number 1. He finished with the top power rating, and that meant that he was going to be the top seeded team. Hampton Crabbers were going to be the top seeded team in postseason playoff.
Right.
Well, they played their first game here, which was the Granby Comets. That would have been my second postseason game. That was my second Eastern Regional semifinal game, and Hampton beat the daylights out of them 43-0, 43-6 or 7, and that moved me to my first regional championship game.
Right. Speaking of coaches, and you say you admired Mike Smith.
Well, here's the reason for that. Let
Yes.
me say this. It was difficult for me not to. Michael gave me my first postseason game in 1980.
Yes.
Michael gave me the next 4 postseason games, including my first regional championship, my first state semifinal, and my first state championship game. I don't think at that time I was the choice of Michael to do those. I was just at the right spot at the right time.
Right.
That isn't the only place he's taken me. Over the years, he's taken me to a bunch of state championship games.
Yes.
As it's turned out now, I work for him from time to time. One of the things that I always done that he had control over was the Virginia High School Coaches All-Star Games.
Yes.
Well, back in 1994, he brought those to the peninsula. I had always read the articles about that game. The games were played in Roanoke or various places. And I'd always just wanted to go see one of those games, and it had been my desire to announce one of them.
Right.
1994, he brings all of that to Hampton, and he asked me to announce it. This is one of the greatest things that could happen to me, and I did that. And I did 19 of them after that. So if you ever want to know why I think of Mike Smith the way I do,
And you just told me.
I mean, yeah, I have now worked with him, and I've worked for him. I have not a single complaint. He's been absolutely wonderful to me.
You told me a story, since we talked about other announcements, you told me a story, refresh my memory when you said people pay attention to you in the audience. And you told me a story about...
The first time I got wind of that was about 4 or 5 years ago, and I never gave it any thought at all. And it was I got a letter through the mail. When I opened it up, I said, I don't know who this is from. The writing on it was a little scratchy. wasn't real good, but it was a little scratchy, but my name was there and it got to me. I opened it up and I read it. And a lady had written this to me. And basically what she said was that she was blind. She says, I love sports. I haven't been blind all my life, but I love sports. And when I was able to see them, I was always interested in them. I go to other places. She said, he said, I spend my time at Todd Stadium. The reason I do, she said, not necessarily the fact that the games there are better. She said, but I am blind, I can't see. She said, but I see the game through what you say.
That's awesome.
That was the first time I have ever had anybody write anything like that, and boy, that hit. I called my wife over and said, you need to read this.
Right.
I'm saying, wow, of all the things that somebody could have written and mailed to me, it was that. So I think
she saw the game
at that particular time, I had an idea of maybe what was going on. In 1992 Eastern Region Tournament, we had something happen that probably has not happened in the entire United States. That's a pretty tall statement.
Yes.
We had 4 parade All-Americans playing in it. 4. 2 first team, 2 second team. Who were they, do you know? Allen Iverson. He was a first string.
Yes.
We had again 2 first string, 2 second string. The first string consisted of 1 guy and 1 girl. Second string consisted of 1 guy and 1 girl. All 4 of those players went on to play college ball.
Yes.
All 4 of them went on to play professional ball. 2 of them I know for sure, and that's the 2 girls. The other 2 were Tajma Abraham and Joe Smith from Maury.
Okay, yes.
Now I know both of the girls went ahead to play college basketball, got out of college, played professional basketball, got out of that, and are now coaches. Both of those are college coaches.
Yes.
Iverson is here. I'm not sure where Joe Smith is.
No, me either. We have to do our research on that, what Joe Smith doing.
The highlighted game of that would probably have been the semifinal game between the Bethel Bruins and the Maury Commodores. That was Allen Iverson against Joe Smith.
Joe Smith. Talk to me. What you remember of that game?
Scorebook. Everything. Look at the scorebook. I did the game. Tip-off of the play went to Lovett Gaither. Gaither took the tip-off right on that's the opening game. He tossed it off to Iverson. Iverson drove up. Smith is in the center of the lane. He drove up, went right straight to him, took a jump shot over his head, not a dunk, but took a jump shot over his head and made it. Iverson did something Smith couldn't do.
That was defense?
No. Well, he could play defense. Iverson could take and there wasn't, in college he didn't do this, and in professional basketball he did not do this. He bonded with the people that were around him, and he made all of them better. Every one of them. He brought every one of them, it was like grabbing them by the belt and pulling them up 1 notch.